We managed to get a change to the bill that any child with a chronic disease, not just diabetes, must have a place and the school must accommodate them.
Hi Adrian, welcome to the Via Diabetes interview series. It's nice to have you.
Great to be here, thank you.
Could you tell our viewers what your diagnosis story is and maybe a little bit about how you manage your diabetes day to day?
Over 30 years ago, half my life has been with type 1 diabetes. The diagnosis came about when I started to just feel very, very thirsty, and I realised there was a big problem when I was passing a fuel station that had outside giant water bottles, the sort that would last you for a week, and I started to really envy them, and I wanted one, and I realised, hang on, this is ridiculous, where's this coming from? Then I went to see my doctor, and he said, you're going to hospital this afternoon, and I spent 3 days in hospital and then came out equipped and ready to face a new world.
I imagine in the last 30 years, the way you manage your diabetes has changed. So maybe if you can tell us a bit how you manage it today, but also maybe how that's transformed over the last couple of decades.
It's changed enormously, because I remember sitting down on the hospital bed with a diabetes nurse showing me how to inject myself with a needle. And that first prick is the most difficult one. After that, it's just not a problem, because you know you've got to do it or you're in trouble. I was helped by the fact that my late mother was also type 1. I was helped also in a really bizarre sort of way by the fact that she refused to accept the diagnosis. She knew she had to take insulin, she didn't like taking it. Often I had to give her the injection because my father worked away, and my brother and I had to cope with her difficult mood swings that came with the condition, and you've got to accept that there is a real big downside. And so I suppose that taught me, I'm going to accept this, I'm going to control it, not let it control me. The way it's changed is, from a little plastic needle you were given and a vial where you had to draw it up, to a pen needle with a much smaller little needle, to test strips that improved, to now a continuous glucose monitor on my arm goes to my iPhone, and that is absolutely revolutionary. And of course the next step, as most people find, is the pump, although I'm not on a pump myself yet. I'm coming up to 67, so I was brought up in an analogue age, not a digital age, and I find technology quite fearsome, and it takes a long while for me to get my head round it. So the idea of a pump and the calculations that have to be done, I think I'll put that off until I really need it.
The other question I wanted to ask about kind of change over time was how maybe policy around diabetes has changed in the UK since you started working in politics.
When I took over the All-Party Group, one of the things I did was change that more into a campaigning group. That instead of having somebody come in and talk to us about their diabetes or latest techniques, we actually went out and did surveys that we could then use to establish a debate within Parliament, or indeed to use to change legislation. Some of the things we achieved was we got the pen needles. You got the pens for free, mostly from your medical practice, because they were given lots of pens free by the company in order to get people to use that insulin. But the needles you had to pay for. Well, the first thing we did was we got value-added tax removed from having to pay for them. It wasn't a lot, but little things like that matter. There shouldn't be VAT on health aid. Then we managed to get them on the prescription list, so you don't have to pay for the pen needles. It took 2 years to convince the civil servants that their calculations on the cost, that every single time somebody injects they will change the needle, is not the way people with diabetes work. They are more likely to only change it 2 or 3 times a vial, not every time they inject, and that suddenly the cost went way, way down. We achieved a great success, I felt, with people who work on blue lights. Now blue lights are ambulance, police, fire service. If somebody was diagnosed with diabetes, they were immediately redeployed somewhere back office or actually were made redundant if there wasn't a place for them. Some people would not reveal that they had the condition, which was then of course dangerous to them and the people who work around them. We got a system now where individual medical assessment determines whether you are safe or not. It's done every 6 months or every 12 months. Another thing was an amendment we got to what was known as the Education Bill. For years, parents of small children were complaining that the primary school they wanted their child to go wouldn't always accept a child with type 1 diabetes because the school didn't feel capable to monitor them and to help them through the things they had to do. If they did accept the child, they insisted the parent had to come into school with them. Now that took a parent out of the economic system. It stigmatised the child that they had a parent coming into the school with them. So we managed to get a change to the bill that any child with a chronic disease, not just diabetes, must have a place and the school must accommodate them. And that's a major step forward. But it's now under threat. This is why it's constantly a battle in politics with diabetes. There's a great big movement to stop children taking a mobile phone into class. You can add 2 and 2 together and say, hang on, that's not going to help a child with diabetes, is it? There are 35,000 primary school kids with type 1 diabetes in the UK, and each and every one of them, their health is compromised if they cannot carry on with the regime that they have.
So when you were defeated, do you know of anyone who would have maybe taken on what you were working on at the time? Or...
Well, yes, somebody did. Yes, he was my vice chairman. He held on to his seat, but he was a person with type 2 diabetes, and so type 1 didn't really get a look in.
Have there been any recent, as in maybe in the last couple of years, policy changes in the UK that have benefited the diabetes community, type 1 or type 2, I guess?
Well, I suppose really it's been all about money. There's fantastic technological changes, and of course if you're going to suddenly offer a sophisticated piece of equipment to a patient, you've got to have a backup technology behind that, technicians who are available for when things go wrong, and that's expensive. It's not just a case of buying a lot of equipment in, it's also actually educating the medical professionals as to how best utilise and get the best out of that equipment, and other people to service and maintain it.
What do you think that patients could do more of to attract more funding?
Make friends with your local elected representative. They're human beings, but they do react very, very positively to the physical presence of somebody who has a vote. You have the power. And my view is they work for you, and don't forget it. And every person who has diabetes has probably got 5 or 10 other people around them, direct family or friends, who also care about that individual and have votes. And then the really important thing is to have something in mind for what they can do. So think about what is it they can do, not necessarily just for you either. I always view this that you're there not just for yourself, you're there for all the people with diabetes. So therefore, what would be helpful? Is there something you'd like to know about statistics in the United Kingdom? It's got nothing to do with you, but it could be interesting, and it could be of use to other people if that statistic then gets published in Parliament because an MP asks the question. So there's all sorts of things you can do.
Can you comment on the screening process in the UK?
Well, I don't know that there's much of a screening process. People are screened for various medical conditions, and diabetes should be analysed when blood tests are taken, but I don't think we've really got a proper screening process. And of course there's a lot of effort being put in by Sanofi to take on the type 1 screening that can be done. That's very much come from the States, aimed very much, I have to say, at wealthy parents who worry about a child getting type 1 diabetes and are prepared to pay a significant sum of money to engage with the treatment. But it is a very useful add-on, and the Italian government has made it a mandatory screening of young people. So I'd like to see that run out right across Europe, right across the world, but I don't think it will happen.
Penultimate question. Have you suffered at all with mental health related to your diabetes?
I've had a few lows where I've felt, what's this about? This is interfering in my life. But no, I haven't. It's never got that bad, and I guess I'm lucky, because I think for some people it can take them down into a very dark place.
And do you think that there are enough resources in place in the UK to help people like that?
I've seen a change in the way that one accesses health services over the years, and those are questions that are actually asked. The one question I want them to ask me is, how are you feeling? Because then you can talk about lots of things that are side effects of your diabetes, and I have to say that is now becoming more and more common for the medical professional to actually just ask, well, how are you?
Since it's been 30 years since you were diagnosed, you have a lot of wisdom, I guess, about managing your diabetes. What's one piece of advice you'd give a newly diagnosed diabetic?
Don't panic. Simple as that. Don't panic. Don't try and learn everything at once. Don't try and do everything at once. Get used to the changes in your body and make sure that you control it. It doesn't control you. You can have a good life. You can do just about everything everybody else does, but just do it the right way.
Thank you, Adrian. That's great. Great advice. Thank you. Thank you so much for being featured on our interview series. It was really nice to hear your story, and also the changes that you've helped implement are amazing and inspirational, and I really hope other governments around the world kind of listen to this and understand that it takes a lot to make changes, I guess, but you start small. And
change does take time and perseverance, but it can happen.